Hey everyone, welcome. Today we are diving into the pretty surprising philosophy of John Cena. We're going to pull from a really candid interview he did recently to unpack a career that was built on some high-stakes mistakes, radical accountability, and, you'll see, a whole series of happy accidents that basically changed everything for him. I mean, that quote really just cuts right to the chase, doesn't it? How on earth does somebody who spent a full decade trying to do the right thing end up in the middle of a global firestorm? Well, it all kicked off with, of all things, a simple teleprompter. Okay, so picture this. Cena's on a massive global press tour for a big movie. He's been doing interviews for 10 hours straight, and now he's just reading some promotional lines into a camera. It's totally routine stuff. Except this time, it was anything but. It turned into what he calls his Ron Burgundy moment. You know, just reading exactly what was written word for word, and the consequences were absolutely massive. So to really get what went down, there's this one key detail you gotta know. Cena wasn't just making up Mandarin on the spot. He was reading it written out in something called pinyin. It's basically a system that lets you spell out Chinese words using the English alphabet. It allowed him to sound totally fluent, even if he couldn't read the actual characters. And he was good at it, so he just thought he was doing his job. And that was the line. Just one single, incredibly politically loaded phrase, calling it the first country. The second he said it, a geopolitical controversy just exploded. Just one sentence, read off a script, and boom, a decade of his hard work is suddenly hanging by a thread. But hold on, why was he even speaking Mandarin in the first place, right? I mean, this wasn't some random thing he decided to do. This one little mistake was actually the totally unexpected climax of a personal mission that was a decade in the making, and it all started back in the wrestling ring. We're talking 10 years. For a full decade, John Cena poured himself into studying Mandarin. He got so deep into it that he was literally dreaming in the language. Can you imagine? So yeah, this wasn't a hobby. It was a serious, long-term plan with a very clear goal in mind. And get this whole mission, it was his idea. He was the one who looked at the map and saw China as this huge, untapped market that the WWE just hadn't been able to crack. His thinking was, hey, if one of our biggest stars can actually speak the language, maybe that's the key to breaking down the barrier. Plus, it was his way of leading by example, showing the younger wrestlers how to really invest in themselves. So, after all that work, all that studying, you'd think the biggest lesson would be about grammar or pronunciation, right? Wrong. The biggest lesson he learned had absolutely nothing to do with that. It was about the massive, massive difference between just knowing the words and actually understanding a culture. See, he nailed the linguistic fluency part. He knew how to say the words, no problem. But what he was missing was the cultural fluency, that deeper understanding of the history, the context, the real weight behind those words. He could speak, but he didn't realize what he was truly saying. And this is him putting it perfectly, right in his own words. It's a pretty powerful admission, admitting that after a whole decade of work, he'd somehow missed the most critical piece of the puzzle. Okay, so the mistake itself is one thing, but what happened after is maybe even more revealing about the kind of guy he is. Cena's response to the whole mess showed his true character as he got trapped in what he called some seriously murky waters. Man, the fallout was it was immediate and it was brutal. First, his statement offends China. So what does he do? He issues this really heartfelt apology in Mandarin. But then, that apology turns around and offends people back home in the United States. He was stuck in this impossible no-win situation where, as he put it, nobody was happy. And make no mistake, the stakes here were incredibly high. This was so serious that he actually went to James Gunn, the director of his show Peacemaker, and told him, look, I get it if you have to fire me. His entire career was genuinely on the line. But here's the thing. Through all of this chaos, he never once pointed the finger at anyone else. Not a PR person, not the person who wrote the script, nobody. When someone tried to tell him it wasn't his fault, his response was instant. That's not true. It was my fault. That idea of just radical ownership, it's really the foundation of his whole philosophy. This whole mindset of taking total ownership, it's actually part of a much bigger pattern for him. When you really look at his career, it's not some grand, perfectly executed plan. It's more like a chain of unexpected moments, these little happy accidents, where he was just brave enough to say yes. I mean, just think about this for a second. His whole rapper persona that saved his WWE career, that was a total accident. It started because he was just freestyle rapping on a tour bus to make his friends laugh. His iconic "you can't see me" gesture, a dare from his little brother. He only even got into wrestling because a friend mentioned it while he was homeless and sleeping in his car. Time after time, his entire life has been shaped by just embracing the unexpected. And it really makes you stop and think, right? We all get these little opportunities, these small moments and chances to take a risk. How often are we just too scared to say yes and see what happens? So, okay, after all the mistakes, all the crazy opportunities, what's the end game? What's actually driving him through all of this? It's not about fame, it's not about championship belts, it's actually something way simpler. It really all boils down to one thing: gratitude. And not the easy kind of gratitude either. We're talking about being genuinely thankful for the entire journey, for having to sleep on a beanbag, for living out of a car, for the failures, for the pain. It's about really understanding that the struggle is what gives the success its meaning. And it all kind of leads to this one core idea, a deep, profound understanding of just how lucky he's been. And for Cena, the only real way to honor that luck is to not waste a second of it, to just try every single day to live a life with purpose. So I guess we'll just leave you with that to think about. Whether it's a huge break or just a tiny little kindness someone shows you, we all get these moments of luck. Cena's whole journey kind of challenges all of us to ask ourselves, what are we doing to honor ours? Thanks for sticking with us for this one.